got so upset with me in my opinion on Tom DeLonge, but it just seemed like he was a little spacey, he was just like, he had like a guy with him who's kind of protecting him, from who he was supposed to talk to, but like even then it's just like he's like being groomed for something, but I don't legitimately interested, but I don't know how he got involved with all these people.
I think he's probably done a lot, and it seems like he's really brought this to the forefront, which I love, and like I'm not hating on him for really anything like that, but I just there's a part of me that's just like, but why you, why now? They could have done this any number of ways. Maybe he's talking about creating this whole media company where they're making films and all that sort of shit, and I was like,
that seems a little bit more manipulative.
What are we doing?
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going on his list.
Let's dive on it.
Dissect some more shit. Okay. His advisors consider the possibility that Atlantis may have existed. This is one of the high points of one of these cycles where humans had developed expanded consciousness and technology and allowed them to become aware of the others and repel them.
The others. He also calls them the bugs too on different interviews I've heard. He refers to the others as the bugs.
Ew.
Which is interesting. That made me think of like the mantis people,
beings,
David Jacobs, and that whole manipulation thing.
Oh, fucking mantis.
I don't know.
Mantis beings. Ew. He suggests Atlantis may have been destroyed by the others. The others desire to keep us enslaved and unconscious. Their greatest threat is human consciousness and spiritual awakening. Mankind uniting against them. That's their greatest fear. Abduction phenomenon is real. Abduction events involve telepathic manipulation and the implanting of ideas by the others. They are not benevolent encounters, although they can make us think they are. Chanting names of gods like Buddha, etc., when being abducted protects you from abduction. It's not the religion, but the faith in a higher power. Humans have souls, the others do not. They are interested in DNA and its connection to influencing the cosmic source. So this whole section on Atlantis and gods and the understanding of how we fit into the whole thing, I mean, honestly, again, I've heard this all before. And I actually love his concept of like the gods destroying Atlantis because they didn't want us to have any kind of technology. I actually, like, having covered Atlantis a lot, I feel that that's true. But then we twisted the story, like the humans did something wrong, so then they had to be destroyed, right? Like in all the religious texts.
They were completely... wasn't he saying they were completely manipulated by these others as well? Like they succumb to the whole idea of these otherworldly beings. But so here's one of the things I really like. And I think, Josh, what do you think about this? I don't think his messaging as far as how we need to proceed forward is that different from Stephen Greer's. I think it's a lot of like,
we need to recognize that
we're being manipulated and push this positive, like love and light kind of thing. And we all get into that same thing, whether it's like politics or whatever it is. We find these divides in our lives, and it seems like it's getting stronger and stronger and more hate-filled and more vitriolic as we kind of think about it and interact with each other. Mm-hmm. But he's sort of saying, recognize that this is all being done to you, and we need to sort of look at ourselves as being this one, consciousness of brothers and sisters, and we need to sort of come together, and it's the negativity that these things are feeding off,
Yeah.
And I don't think that messaging is too far off of what Greer's saying, but Greer's more or less saying that, there's no such thing as bad ETs.
Which I don't agree with that. But
so
he is saying the greatest threat is human consciousness and spiritual awakening, which is exactly what Greer is trying to get people to do, is kind of unite as mankind and awaken, correct? I mean, he is reaching out to ETs. However, he's doing it in a loving way. Right, Josh?
See, I disagree. This is disinformation. So that part lines up, the hippie part lines up, love and consciousness. But he clearly says several times, like CE5, when you make contact with them, when you reach out with consciousness and love and universal peace, the ones you're interacting with are bad. They're manipulating you. Those aren't like nice encounters. Those encounters are all being a manipulation of some sort, and like you got to be very careful. He clearly says that in multiple interviews, and I think in this document as well. And the evidence is overwhelming from CE5s, and believe me, I've gone deep on YouTube and listened to way too many hours of this shit and studied it a lot. And almost universally, the encounters are all amazing and spiritual. People get healed. People's like lives change. They transform for the better. Like the evidence just doesn't support that coming from the CE5 experiences on Team Greer. I just think this is a mix. What we're looking at is some of it's true. Like what he's saying sounds nice, but it's all in a lens of a threat. There's a looming alien threat out there that's like controlling us from the stars. If David Icke said the same thing, half the world would piss on it immediately.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of positivity with the whole CE5 thing, and I think if I'm sort of remembering back to what Tom DeLonge was saying, it wasn't necessarily that these are bad things that we need to we stop doing this. He was more or less saying that we need to stop fucking with things we don't know about. We don't know enough about these things, and just to go in there and start meddling with it and playing around with it could be playing with fire potentially.
Okay, well, hear this.
There's a lot of positive stuff, but is that part of the manipulation as well? Like that they're just kind of luring us in? I don't know.
Well, maybe. Okay, it's fun to go that way. But honestly, ask yourself, like we know now that advanced technologies are connected with consciousness. And generally, to access these great technologies, you have to be a little more conscious. So if you're millions of years old and you're being very conscious with conscious technology, generally, you can make the assumption that, they're not going to be aggressive. They're going to be conscious beings who know better. And I just don't think that like aliens that travel for millions of years need to manipulate us, need to suck life energy from us. Maybe there's something going on. Here's the deal. Like, I'm not saying all this is BS because I don't know. There could be something going on where interdimensional entities do like to suck energy from us. But again, we've heard the story a million times.
I mean, people suck energy from other people. Why won't aliens do it?
Yeah, there's no real proof for that either. There's proof for like positive interactions with aliens, but there's no proof for people, interdimensional reptilians or whatever they are, sucking life. You know what I mean? There's no proof of that. Like, there's been nothing. There's no smoking gun. No one's ever showed me anything. You know what I mean? But there is proof of people seeing UFOs and contacting them through meditation, having positive results. I mean, that's just what I'm going on. Now I realize I'm naive and want it to be rainbows and skipping and holding hands and high fives, but. But I just feel strongly about it that we're in a point where, like, it's clear to me Project Blue Beam is taking place. Like, this is just more steps. The latest episode of Unidentified on the History Channel, it was called, the latest one's tonight, but it was called Planetary Threat. And that's the name of the episode. And it was like, all it was encounters with the military around the world and like, what's happening? We got to do something about this. The whole thing was framed in the end. And in the end, they asked Luis Elizondo, they're like, do you believe in aliens? I'm like, why are you asking that episode 4? It's season 2 of Unidentified. Of course he believes in it. Like, what are you saying? And he goes, I'm not going to answer that with all due respect. I was like, the fuck does that mean? Get the hell out of here, Luis Elizondo. I don't trust that guy as far as I can throw him,
That's one thing that sort of Tom got into a little bit as well, about that whole sucking the negative energy that they create with, the divide within us, and they're like feeding off it. And I like that whole direct threat thing, that someday they're going to attack, doesn't make sense on that level, because why would they attack their food source and take over? It doesn't make any sense. They just want to keep these feuds and this division going so they can keep feeding off the negative energy. Yeah, coming in and some sort of Project Blue Beam being set up like an attack. That doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you come and just wipe out your whole like food source?
There's so many holes in this, but anyways, yeah. So okay.
Yeah, I mean it's fine, but I mean, like, what about the whole? But he talks about abduction here, which is interesting. I mean, he's saying it's real.
Yeah, let's get into that.
And he says they're basically negative because they implant ideas into us, which is the purpose of it. And then also they're interested in our DNA because it influences the cosmic source. I think that's all really interesting. But so he's saying butt probing is not good for you. I know, Josh, you're going to disagree with me. Nope,
wait,
he's not.
No, I think I agree. No, I agree. Butt probing is not good. I just don't think it
bueno.
exists. It doesn't exist. Even like the Berkshire incident we just covered, like even the interviews, when you go deep on them, they weren't quite sure if the humans were involved. They felt like they're at a human base and not a ship at some point. Like it could all be manipulation. It could all be part of those programs Richard Doty and Greer talk about that like purposely abduct people and make them think they're getting abducted by us just for the fear, so we can weaponize space and spend more money in space. Like, I don't know, man. Something crazy is going down, and I just have a feeling whatever we're coming out of the TTSA and this is not 100% the truth. Beware.
Well, that's what I wanted to deep dive into, like, how are they manipulating us? Like, are they possessing people? How are they driving this division? How are they interacting with humanity and causing this division? Are they, like, is it like the whole idea of these shape-shifting reptilians who look like people taking over? Are they cloning?
It's not people, though. Like, to create division, you just create thoughts in people's heads, right? So one moment, somebody's going down the path of like, this is what they free will, this is what they want to do, and then all of a sudden they get a crazy thought. Like, you've heard this a million times, like stories of people who are like, Jesus Christ came to me and he told me to kill my family, all this crazy stuff. Like, I mean, I think that
holy shit, I don't remember that from the Bible. Maybe that I want to preface
that the Christ energy, just like he had mentioned, like Buddha, is just as it's powerful. Like, if you tap into the higher power, not the religion, but like people get these crazy thoughts in their head. They're like going along one day and they get these crazy thoughts and they do them, and people are like, oh my God, I just thought that was a normal guy. He's a nice neighbor. There's things like that I can see giving evidence to the fact that they have the ability to plant thoughts and things in our head, and because we're not good at filtering our own mind, we just do them. We become them. We succumb to
it is
whatever
like a possession.
it is. Yeah,
it's like a parasitical possession, basically.
But it's through your thoughts, and then you say that they're your own thoughts. You're like, oh, that's how I feel. But do you really feel that way? I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But I actually do agree with that point, because you see it a lot in people. They're going along one path and then they just switch like automatically. They just go another direction. Yeah. Like where did that come from? There's no such thing as an original thought. So speaking of that, he says he's been told by his advisors that some UFO encounters are part military and part spiritual. He doesn't know what that means. So,
right.
So does that mean, are we back to like Project? So this is one where I'm like, okay, what's going on? If we go back to Project Bluebeam, where like part of this is the U.S. government creating fake UFO counters, and then part of it is,
as he's pointing out,
is part of it is Greer's spiritual part. I'm confused. Anybody else?
That one's.
I think you said it right, actually.
There's always disinformation every time somebody speaks about things that we don't have solid evidence of, per se, right? Yeah. So, if they are creating like a one world like government, one world military to fight off something that's evil, like uniting mankind, maybe this is their way of doing it. I don't really agree with it. But it has two parts to it, right? It's like he's saying that there's something really bad and we all have to come together and put our forces together to fight this thing that's so evil. Okay, that sounds nice. But I do think that it's also promoting Space Force.
Yeah, it's all tied. Yes, 100%. It's all tied together. You're right. Yeah, no, that's why we have Space Force. It's all a stepstone to that.
All right, on to the next one. UFO phenomenon in modern history. This is what he says. The Nazis had contact with the others. World War II was at least partly the result of their manipulation. UFOs started appearing at all our nuclear tests in and following World War II. The visitations happened in U.S. tests, Soviet tests, and possibly elsewhere. Nuclear tests alerted world governments to the existence of ET visitors, and the most important discovery was that EMP, electromagnetic pulses caused by airbursts of nuclear weapons, revealed and brought down their craft. So he's saying, this is interesting because I've never heard this take before, that us creating nuclear weapons, they weren't coming to come to our silos and be like, oh, don't use those nuclear weapons because you're hurting the environment. They came because they didn't want us to use the nuclear weapons because it's the only thing that could destroy them.
Yeah. This one's interesting. I think we could probably talk about this for a bit. Josh, what do you got?
Well, I was just going to say, do we fully go all over the... Well, let's read the next one, too.
Okay.
Because I think it's important if we're going to discuss all the nuke stuff. Why don't you read the next one first, Melissa, then we'll really break